Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahi Tejasvinavati Tamastu Mahavidvishavahi. Om Shanti. So, as we have been discussing in the last class, after this subtle body, Sukshma Sarira, also we discussed about prana, the function of the prana, and where we arrived that not only the prana job is exhalation, yawning, sneezing and whatnot, also that asana pipasa. So that means hunger and also thirst is the part of prana's function. So that we saw very clearly. So, however, here, after discussing that point, now to arrive at how all these things happens, also we need to look at. So let us look at monkey has come, okay? See, showing his teeth and very nicely, okay? Think something is going on here. So anyway, good. So now let us look at what is ego and how it works. So let us see few verses. Antakaranam Chakshuradishu Varshmani Ahamityabhimanena Tishtatyabhasa Tejasa. Says beautifully. As we saw this antakarana, so this inner organs, inner instruments, eteshu, and what happens here it says chakshuradishu. So that starting with eyes means all sense organs put together. Now starting with eye, ear, nose, tongue, skin. So there is something called identification. So here it says aham iti abhimanena abhasa tejasa. So what happens is here, so the me is being reflected, called pratibimba. So now because of the reflection which we have seen in details clearly in Panchadasi first chapter, very clear discussion we had elaborately. So that's why here it says when this reflection or reflected I would rather say, reflected self, that gets identified with all the sense organs. Of course, that is in me, in this body. Now, because of that reason, you see a change in the approach. So what is that change in approach? Because nothing was, then next verse. Ahankara savigneyaha karta bhukta bhimanyam satvadi guna yogena chavasthatrayam ashnute. And because of this, now starts called ahankara. So ahankara means aham karomi iti bhava, that I do. In short, what we call as ego. So here it says, ahankaraha sa vikeyaha. So may one know it. It is to be known. Vikeyaha, to know. What is that? That is called ahankara. And this ahankara doesn't keep quiet. Ego doesn't keep quiet. First is a reflected I. If it keeps quiet, there is no problem at all. But the moment there is ego, now this ahankara, which is nothing but a reflected self, like the sun that is reflected on a pot, water. So on a pot there is water or oil or whatever, there is a reflecting surface, sun reflects. So there is a sun. Now that sun actually is a reflection. Now what does it happens? Now you can say, look, sun is dirty. Sun is in a dirty place. Sun is in a holy place. Actually, sun is neither in dirty place nor in holy place. It is reflected. Now because of that identification, how it happens here? Now self is being attached to the body. Self is reflected in mind especially. Please understand. Because of the reflection there is attachment. And the reflection can happen only in a medium. Which medium can reflect? That's why subtle body is the means. In the gross body, the self cannot get reflected. So that's why, because why it cannot be reflected? Also if you look at, the gross body is made up of tamas predominantly. So self to get reflected means sattva guna. That's also another way of looking at it. However, here it says, sattvadi guna yogena, that abhiman. So here this ahankara, the ego, so when it gets identified, and of course in keeping with sattva, raja and tamoguna, these three qualities, and of course in avasthatrayam, in three different states, waking, dream and deep sleep. This analysis, also deep sleep analysis, we have done in Panchadashi. There it says, there is a point, sometimes also they experiences, what does, sometimes this person becomes karta, sometimes it becomes bhokta. So karta means doer, bhokta means enjoyer. So that means in short, the ego cannot keep quiet. So ego, based on the situation, based on my guna, either remains as bhokta or becomes karta. It is like very rare to find out a quiet monkey, meditative monkey, mindfulness monkey, unless that fellow has got some problem. Always will be busy some way or other. So also this karta, the ego, this identified, let us say reflected I, when it gets identified, cannot keep quiet. Either it has to be karta or bhokta. That's why in our life, all the time, we keep shifting, or you can say all our roles that we play in our day-to-day life, either it is connected to the sense of enjoyership or to the sense of doership. In fact, all our role is directly connected to sense of enjoyership, kartutva bhava, bhoktutva bhava. But we nicely name it, we nicely shift it to kartutva bhava is my duty. It's like, sometimes we give the definition of duty to the greed. Have you not observed? My greed becomes my sense of duty. Because without the sense of doership, there cannot be sense of enjoyership. Because only the sense of enjoyers, I made a mistake. Without sense of enjoyership, there cannot be sense of doership. Without there is sense of enjoyership, how can I start doing anything? That's why all my actions, all my activities only backed up by enjoyership. When I discover that I no more can enjoy, will I do anything? Will I be interested to do anything? It will not work. That is how the things functions in life. So that's why what is to be done. So what one need to do is, very nicely, that is what one has to do is here. So what one should do? Let us look at how it works. Let us read the next. Vishayanamanukule Sukhi dukhi viparyayem Sukham dukkham cha tadharma Sadanandasya natmanah. Very nicely. So when my focus is on what? To enjoy, the sense of enjoyership is predominant in some way or other. Now he says, because of that reason, now sometimes I am sukhi, sometimes I am dukhi, sometimes I am happy, of course sometimes I am miserable. If it is sometimes 50-50, I can understand. Sometimes 60-40 also I can understand, okay? Problem is, I myself do not know, okay? Somebody said nicely, my life is dukhi. Once in a while sukhi. Then again dukhi, sukhi. Dukhi. So only I am looking at the ray from a distance when this sukham, this happiness will come. And whole life is nothing. Just looking at the ray, sukham is going to come. And when sukham comes and goes, that also I do not notice, okay? That's the most painful thing. However, so sometimes, but some people say, no, Swamiji, life is like sukham, all the time, sukham, happiness. Once in a while, dukkham comes. Hey, you are lucky guy, okay? Enjoy. Don't tell anybody, don't share anybody, because other will be jealous of you, okay? However, so the life is mixture of sukham, dukkham. And why? He says, look, Visayanam anukulye and viparyaye. This is the 2 point comes. So that means it's very clear. When the sense organs and sense objects, so Vishana means here is sense objects, they are favorable. So in short, if the sense objects are available according to me, according to my wish, according to my way, so that means what? I am happy. And of course, if they are not favorable, opposite viparya, automatically I become what? Miserable. So that means what? Happiness or misery, is it related to me or is it related to my ego? So that is the point. He says, look, very nicely, cha tad dharma sadanandasya na atmanah. He says, look, this sukham and dukkham is the nature of the ego, tad dharma. So if I am happy, it is because of my ego. If I am unhappy, it is because of my ego. So that means happiness and unhappiness has nothing to do with me. And who is me? I am not ordinary me. Sadananda, who is ever happy. If you observe, very nicely we say, that time you consider or you look for both. You look for freedom or you consider that you are a free person. When you think that you were bound or you are bound, if you are not bound, will you look for freedom? Because that is, you will not know what is, bondage. Only when you know that you are bound or you feel that you are bound, you will look for freedom. So that means whenever you look for freedom or you say that you are a free person, that means either you feel that you are in bondage or you feel that you had some bondage. Suppose if you are ever free, not suppose, this is the truth, if you are ever free, now will you say that, hey look, I am a free person? Will you look for freedom? So this is Sadananda, my nature is ever free. My nature is ever happy. But unfortunately, because of the identification with this mind and body complex, instead of body-mind complex, mind and body complex, opposite way. Now I consider as my reflected self, which is called ego through ego. Now I attribute the happiness or unhappiness to me. That's why always I want to be happy in keeping with all the sense objects. So all my happiness is related to my sense objects. So also all my unhappiness also equally related to my sense objects, either absence or presence. So whole life is nothing but working with my likes and dislikes, in short. Or you can say working with all the sense objects which is being created by me, especially giving importance to them. So that's why here is very clearly being used. So me being happy has nothing to do with me. Me being unhappy has nothing to do with me. But it has directly to do with my ego, my individuality. And that's why we say, the stronger I have individuality, the more I am either happy or unhappy. So whoever keeps jumping, you understand? The 32 teeth, you understand? This is called jumping with happiness and unhappiness. Definitely you can see that person has got more ego. That's why the stability, this is what you can see. The matured person looks at situation in a matured way. The problem with all of us is, we want instant everything. And without knowing, there is nothing called instant, we know. Even if there is instant coffee available, there is instant noodles available, everything available, okay? Not that not available. But in reality, there is nothing called instant. Because to get this instant noodle, must have done some processing or not. Even if what we say instant coffee, I do not know how they make instant coffee, the process. Some process must have done before. Because without going through prior process, there cannot be something called instant. So, but we all look for instant. And that too nothing wrong with it, but without going through any process, you understand? How is it possible? So that's why he says, Sadanandasya na atmanaha. That means this happiness and unhappiness, happiness or unhappiness, they do not belong to the Atman, which is Sadananda, ever happy, ever free. Then what is all about it? What is it? Why you people are looking for different love, different things? Then why we are crazy for sense objects, people, relationship? Beautifully, 2 verses highlights. of course, which is related to Upanishadic teaching, and we'll see where very nicely our what you call Yajnavalkya and his wife Maitreyi teaching goes. Navare Patyu. So that goes on and on. We'll see that point, okay? Let us look at the verse. Atmarthatvena hi priyan Vishayo naswatah priyah Swatayeva hi sarvesham Atma priyatamo yatah Tata Atma Sadanando Nasya Dukkham Kadachana. So it's beautiful. If we look at whole life, we look, that person is dearer to me, that person is pleasure to me. But remember, all these things is not because the person is pleasure or dearer. It is because of one's own self. As the story, the background of goes, that Maitreyi, one of the great lady of Vedic era, who happens to be the wife of Yajnavalkya. So when Yajnavalkya, as a great says, wanted to go for a sannyasa. So whatever assets he had, he thought of to distribute among two wives, so that let them live their life, so can go for sannyasa. And that time, Maitreyi asked, why you are going? That means there is something better. When you are distributing the small things with all, and you are going away, that means there is something better. So what is that better? I would like to know. So that is how the teaching started. Very nice teaching. So that is being presented here. That in short, a wife is not dearer to the husband for the sake of wife, but for the sake of one's own self. So also the husband is not dearer to wife for the sake of husband, but for the sake of one's own self. Finally, it says that Navare sarvasya priyam bhavati atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. So even if anything and everything that you see, that is not dearer to one's own self, not because of that object or that person, but because of one's own self. Because I am dearer to myself, that's why everything is dearer to me. This is the teaching. In fact, I cannot forget, this teaching was very nicely manipulated by somebody. People are very capable of, putting their teaching. This is called, New Age teaching, okay? Yes, you can see, this is what I understand. Without knowing teaching, I know it. How? You look, I like that person wherever I see my ego. Or whoever fulfills my ego. Can you see this point? I like that object, that person is dearer to me wherever my ego is being fulfilled or addressed. Can you see this point? Self, na? Ego is self. If the person is not fulfilling my ego, is not relating with my ego, will I like that person? Definitely I don't like. So whole world looks for what? Only relate with that person where ego is being addressed, ego is being taken care of. So if the ego is being challenged, will you like that person? That's why you say, if you nourish somebody's ego, that person will say, I love you, honey, I love you. The moment you challenge that fellow, what is it? I hate you to the core. You understand? This is language because I noticed it. I hate you to the core. I do not know what is that core, okay? So is it core in the coal mine, core, or it is the core of this log of wood, okay? I do not understand, okay? That I have my funny understanding regarding to that. However, but it's not like that. Here is being highlighted little carefully. That please understand, Atmarthatvanahi Vishayah. Whenever you say something is dearer to you, that is giving you Priya means dear, not pleasure giving, which is dear to you. It is because of you, because you are there, the self is there. I am pleasurable, and when I know I am happy, in short, everything becomes the object of happiness. When I am unhappy, anything and everything is unhappy. And moreover, whatever is the source of happiness, it is nothing but a reflection of me. And whatever is source of unhappiness is nothing but a reflection of me. So the happiness and unhappiness, that is even the dharma of my ego, please understand. But I always look at everything as what? Either source of happiness or unhappiness. But in reality, that whatever we see, all are related to me. That's why what I need to do, because me is being manifested through them. Me means here the self. Because me is being manifested through them, that's why sense objects are pleasurable, or they are dearer to me. And of course, they don't have any independent existence. That's why what I need to do, me being the most beloved, me being the most dearer one to myself, I need not run behind any object or people in my life. Because the more I run behind a person, the more, of course, object is better, because object doesn't have, that much conscience, that's not, this thing, what do you call it? Conscience? That sort of knowledge or that sort of things to understand you and run. But definitely, the more you run behind a person, the person starts, demanding more and more or not. I see very clearly, we have a dog here. The more you try to run behind, that fellow more goes away. And when you do not look at that fellow, comes and lies down in front of and in such a place lies down, so that you don't have any other choice other than, looking at that fellow. In front of the gate, lie down. Will not get up. So, because it feels unwanted, so that means want some attention. But whenever I try my best, hey, get up or do something, look at, will go. So as though I have to chase that fellow. Moment I come out, will run behind me. I don't know what sort of prarabdha I have with that dog now, okay? So a few days back, he is here. Last one and a half months, more than that. He is here now. Not going. And completely free. Goes anywhere and everywhere again comes and lies down. I do not know, I am tired of it. And when I am not here, he observes, comes up, makes little bit here and there and goes down. This is new now. However, coming back to the point, this is joke apart, okay? So here what happens is, that means I need not run behind anybody or anything for my happiness. But the problem with all of us is, we think that person, that object will give me happiness. And when we see that this person or that person is going to give me happiness, that never happens. And in fact, we become more and more weaker. Because when I look at somebody as the source of happiness, if I look at something as the source of happiness, finally I get only frustrated, beaten up in my life. So that is what is being highlighted. Me being the most beloved to myself. That means the nature of me is most beloved to all of us, to me, to you, to everybody. That means what? Please understand, this me who is always Sadananda, ever happy, that means dukkham is not there at all. So misery or difficult, okay, you can say misery or suffering or grief is not the part of me at all. So that means I need not be unhappy anytime in my life. And whenever I am unhappy, my unhappiness is related to my ego, reflected self, not me. So what is the reflected self? Reflected self is nothing but me, the self, is being identified with body-mind complex. So when myself is being considered, or I consider myself as body-mind complex, that is also another way of looking at, easiest way of looking at, when I come to a conclusion that I am body-mind complex. I am fat, I am thin, body. Mind, I am doctor, engineer, blah, blah, blah. So all these things. So when I look at myself that I am body-mind complex, so that me called ego has to go through suffering. Now that body wants another body, that mind wants another body, and not only that, that mind and body wants many objects to become happy. And finally what happens? Only keeps changing the people and object, but never becomes happy. That's why more the person grows, more becomes helpless in life. Sometimes it looks like, life started with helplessness, at least that there was hope. But later on, same helplessness continues without hope. This is the, achievement we all have, you understand? When we started our life, means as a child, of course we are helpless, okay? No doubt in it. But there was hope. But now as we grow old, what happens? Same helplessness continues without hope. So that means hopeless, helpless. So that you call as converting your helplessness situation into hopeless is called growth. And you have achieved many things. You have gathered many things. You have lived your life in different ways. You have exposed yourself in different ways. For what? Just to make sure the state of helplessness must be with sense of hopeless. What a beautiful way of presenting one's own self. Can you see this point? That's why understanding this actually helps very carefully. How, and especially when the suffering comes, how to withdraw from the sense object, one's own self, especially the ego. The moment there is some suffering, the moment, whenever, learning to withdraw this ego, reflected self, from the sense object. And if that is being done carefully, and how it can be done? Understanding that, look, I am not the reflected self. I am the self, which is Sadananda, Sachidananda. That's why the teaching helps. And when you start abiding with more and more teaching, automatically the self, the ego becomes weaker. And when ego becomes weaker, then automatically what happens? You will not give that much importance, or you will not depend upon what? The sense object. Can you see this point? Because sense object cannot have that much strength. Teaching takes care of that part. Sense objects are useful. They are needed. No doubt in it. They are not useless at all. But with their limitations. That's why we say life should be exactly like, Padma Patra Eva Ambasa. How the water drop is on lotus leaf. If you observe the lotus leaf inside the water, born in water, grows up in water, and even if there is a drop of water on lotus leaf, remember lotus leaf is untouched by water. It's a very amazing thing to observe. So also the life, and that can happen when I am with the teaching. Let us look at the next verse. Yat susuttau nirvishaya atmanando nubhuyate Sruti pratyakshamotiham anumanam cha jagrade. Says beautifully, if we try to observe, yat susuptau nirbishaya atmanananda anubhuyate iti. Actually, this me being happy has nothing to do with sense object. But me being unhappy has something to do with sense object. Okay? Me being happy has nothing to do with sense object. But me being unhappy definitely has something to do with sense object. Why? How? He says, in deep sleep, in susupti avastha, susupto, in deep sleep, definitely there is no vishaya, there is no sense object, because there is no sense of doership nor sense of enjoyership. That's why you say what? I had a good sleep after getting up, okay? So that means when there is no object, sense object, you don't experience any sense object, but you are able to experience and happiness. That's why each one of us wants to sleep. You may not eat for one day. If food is not being provided for 1 or 2 days, you can manage it, drinking water or something or other. Imagine if 2 days you don't go sleep, get sleep. Will you go crazy or not? Sometimes body does not need sleep, but mind needs sleep because you want to be happy, you understand? So at least every day, without thinking 4 to 5 hours or 6 hours, we are happy. It's big, 30% of life is happiness, okay? Problem is I don't get sleep. That's the problem. Someone says, Swami, I don't get sleep, okay? Only please learn to sleep, okay? That's why he says beautifully, it is not, it says how it is. It is the declaration of Shruti. Scripture also says, Pratyaksham means directly also we do experience, Aityam tradition, Anumana inference after getting up also, and of course try to see this thing with reference to Jagrata Avastha. Now please understand this point. When we try to see this, that how I can be happy without any sense objects, especially not looking for, not depending upon sense objects during my sleep. So also I can be happy without anybody, anything in my life. That's why what we do is generally, we try to withdraw ourselves from everybody. Whenever there is chaos in life, the best way to handle the chaotic life is learning to withdraw from anybody and everybody that moment. But generally what we do, we don't withdraw, we selectively switch over. That's the problem with all of us. It is like from our childhood we go through. Because I have done this thing, this is a natural thing, okay? You don't have to. When father scolds, go to mother. When mother scolds, goes to father. When both of them scold, go to grandparents. And if whole family scolds, go to the neighbor, okay? And if neighbor scolds, go to village. We have a different level, okay? Don't worry. Or go to some relative house, okay? Run away from everybody. So they will take care of you, okay? Few days, no problem, don't worry. So what we do, selectively, conveniently, we shift. Now that also we do till we grow, till we die. So if there is some issue in me, now I sort myself in that area with that way of thinking. Now I switch over. It's like, I want to continue the television. One program I saw, I didn't like it. So what I do, let me change the channel, okay? It is like exactly, you have all the news channel, okay? Please don't misunderstand. You are a news person, especially in India, okay? You are a news fellow. So you want to see news. You saw one channel, that fellow is talking some nonsense. So okay, now you really fed up, you change to another news channel. What you will see? Few minutes, few things different. After that again the same news channels or not? I don't see any difference, okay? Only the anchor changes, but same voice, same clip. Sometimes the worst part is same video clip, okay? So how, even if you change one channel to another channel, you think you will be able to get rid of that video clip? Nothing you are going to get rid of it. Same thing also in our life, we do the same thing. That's why the best thing would be when there is some conflict, better to withdraw for some time. And while withdrawing, make sure that you are not being misunderstood. That is the key point. While withdrawing, make sure that you are not being misunderstood. Because if you are being misunderstood, again to do the repairing, it will take more time. You understand? That damage is forever. So never ever allow yourself to be misunderstood. So that preparation, that maturity one should have. It's like exactly, for example, I can give you beautiful example. Let us say I am not happy. In my case, I can say, if I am not happy, I can announce all of you, hey look, I would like to I want to spend some time with myself. My phone or social media, nothing will be, I will not be available. So if I communicate all of you carefully, properly, nicely, then I switch up. You all will like it or not. Oh, Swami wants something, some time for himself. Whereas if I stop everything, now what will happen to me? What, forget about me, you all. And when you people think, what happened to Swamiji? What happened to Swamiji? Now that impact will have, even if I want to sit down, keep quiet on this rock of mountain or rock of this Ganga, what I'll think? What others are thinking? What are they doing? Not doing? You understand what I'm trying to say? And also that will big mess later on. I have to spend a lot of time. Maybe if I spend 5 days or 10 days, later on I have to spend 1 month to rectify. So that's why what is to be done is, that's why beautiful is, anytime there is something, I must look at my reflected ego or inflated ego sometimes. Then only I can see the difference. And why and how? Let us look at the next verse. He brings the concept of Maya in 3 verses. अव्यक्त नाम्नि परमेश शक्ति अनाद्य विद्या त्रिगुणात्मिका परा कार्यानुमेया सुधियेव माया यया जगत् सर्वमिदं प्रसूयते. Says, look, because we have very convenient way of looking at every time, okay? Anything and everything happens, you can pass on the buck to somebody. So you can wash the hand, okay? After all, everything is Maya. In India we have, okay? After all, everything is God's creation. So why to bother? Don't worry. In fact, we are born for all these things. Actually, it helps a lot, actually. You know, at least the mind doesn't think much. So he says, look, don't worry. Abhyakta namni paramesh shakti anadi avidya trigunatmika maya. So this maya is something called abhyakta namni. So namni means is called, it is being considered as abhyakta, unmanifest. Again, refer to first chapter of Panchadashi. Details we have discussed. Paramesha Shakti, the power of the Lord. Why? Because when the jiva is under the influence of avidya, that time the Lord becomes Maya Dharaha. So Maya is under the control of the Lord. So that's why Paramesha Shakti. And Anadi Avidya, beginningless ignorance. And is made up of Trigunatmika, Triguna, made up of three gunas, Sattva, Rajaha and Tama. And of course, superior to what? Karya Anumeya. So when it is superior to, because also their effect, because from the, as we look at, know very well, always the cause is superior to the effect. So that means the product that is available in Maya's creation is definitely inferior than the Maya. That's why you have to understand, what one has to understand, Sudhiyaha eva Maya Jagat Sarvamidam Prasuyate. So one has to really understand with a clear intellect. This Jagat means the product of Maya. Definitely is inferior. This Jagat happens with Sarvam, entire Jagat. The entire creation is the product of Maya, means is projected out of Maya. That's why Maya becomes superior than the Jagat. Jagat becomes, this creation becomes being product, and Maya being the cause. Definitely Maya takes over. And because of this reason, you have to look at this point that very carefully, why and how. Very common example, common definition of Maya is being given like this. Maya. Ma means that which does not exist. Ya means that which exists. Simplest way. In reality, that which does not exist, but as though it exists, is called Maya. Like the cloth. In reality, cloth does not exist. Because if I take all the thread, where is a cloth? There is nothing called cloth. So in reality, cloth does not exist, but still it exists. I am using it. I am able to cover myself. Same thing also. Whole creation in reality doesn't exist, but as though it exists. That's why what you need to do. He says, look, let us read the next one, okay? सनाप्य सनाप्युभयात्मिकानो भिनाप्य भिनाप्युभयात्मिकानो सांगाप्यनंगाभ्युभयात्मिकानो महाद्भुता निर्वचनीय रूपा. The concept of Maya is being highlighted. That very nicely. Sat na api asat na. This Maya is something. It is neither Sat. Sat means existent. Not non-existence asat. Okay, somewhere in between. Api ubhyatmika. So api ubhyatmika no means now, na. If indeed it is neither both. Same thing also. Bhinna api, abhinna api. It is not different. It is not the same either. Ubhyatmika, neither it belongs to both the natures. It's a very nice way of poetic language, okay? Sangha means angena saha, with part or without part. Means whole, complete. Ubhyatmika, in between, no. That means what? Mahadbhuta anirvachaniya rupa. So Mahadbhuta, Mahan Adbhuta. It's the most wonderful thing too. At the same time, anirvachaniya rupa, which is not really explainable. So Maya is something cannot be explained. Why and how? We'll see another verse of this Maya in tomorrow and we'll discuss more of it, okay? Please close your eyes. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnahat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate